The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this very exciting sneak peek webinar on our new two-way wireless sound all smoke detector. My name is Jessie and I'm the marketing coordinator here at ELK, and joining me today is Amy Strickland, our wonderful tech support and marketing assistant at ELK Products. We are very excited about launching this new product next week at ISC West. But we wanted to give you the exclusive first glimpse of this amazing product before we show it live to the public next week. And I know some of you are attending ISC West in just a couple short days, so be sure to stop by our booth 7033. We will have probably, I think, around 6 to 9 smoke detectors at our booth. We're going to be actively demoing it. So definitely make a point to stop by our booth and see this smoke detector in action. This webinar is pretty much what it says, a sneak peek. So we're just going to run through why you want it, why you need it, the features of it, how it is different between all the other smoke detectors, and then we'll take questions at the end for sure. But throughout the webinar, if you have questions, type your question in the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. We will get to as many questions as we can, but we are allowing the end of the webinar a good amount of time for your questions and answers. And this webinar is being recorded, and Amy will be sending all of you a follow-up email probably around Monday or Tuesday next week of the recording and of all the questions, the manual of the product, and any other useful resources that you need. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Amy and our new smoke detector.
Thank you, Jessie, and thank you everyone for spending some time with us today to go over this new product of ours. We're very excited about it and want to let you know what it's all about. And I know a lot of people have been asking for it and waiting for us to add this to our two-way line, so we're very excited to be able to offer this now. So I want to start out just by going over a little bit of what our two-way is. The smoke detector we're going to be talking about today is part of our two-way line. And so to start off with that, I just want to explain the basic difference between two-way and one-way. Traditional one-way wireless is what everyone's been accustomed to up until recently, and with that you have a transmitter and a receiver. The receiver being the device, in this case, connected to our M1, and the transmitter being the actual sensor. And so when that sensor is tripped, it really just has to blindly blast out multiple signals in hopes that one of the signals will get to the receiver and to the control, and the control will be able to react to that. The sensor has no way of knowing whether or not its signal was received. So that does leave some opportunity for things not to work correctly and have reliability issues and that sort of thing. So with our two-way wireless, we've improved on the idea of wireless, which is great for a lot of different installations, whether it be a retrofit or different types of construction materials make it difficult to mount sensors and that sort of thing. So wireless is great, and we've improved on the concept of wireless with our two-way. And so with the two-way wireless, you're getting that positive signal acknowledgement. We also operate on a 900 megahertz, and we're doing frequency hopping there, so it's between 902 and 928 megahertz, and we're hopping around on those frequencies to get the best possible signal. We also can provide status indication through LEDs with the feedback coming back to the sensors. And our two-way also allows for some power adjustments, and what that does is allow us to pick the optimal power level to really extend that battery life on the sensor. So not only are you getting that reliability, but you're also getting the extension of the battery life through that adjustment, and also through the fact that the sensor doesn't have to just blast out signals. The product that you're seeing on your screen here is the M1 XRF-TW. That is our two-way wireless transceiver. And This connects to the M1 through the data bus. So, this is, typical data bus wiring. If you're familiar with the M1, then you're going to be familiar with wiring the data bus, and this follows those same rules as far as the runs on the data bus and use of our data bus hubs when that's necessary and that sort of thing. You can have multiple receivers with the two-way. You could have up to 3, and what that allows you to do is increase the coverage area. So if you have a larger area that you're trying to cover, then you can actually install multiple transceiver units to increase that coverage area. So I was showing you a moment ago and talking a little bit about how the one-way works with just blasting out the signals. So in that same train of thought, we want to go over how the two-way works. So instead of just have to blast out and hope it gets through, when one of the two-way sensors gets tripped, it sends a signal, the transceiver gets that signal and says, hey, I got that, and it sends a signal back to the sensor to say your signal was received, letting the sensor know it doesn't need to send out any more signals. And again, that ties back into the reliability of having that acknowledgement, as well as extending the battery life, because you're not having to blast out all those signals at full strength each time hoping that they get through. So that's just a little bit about our two-way. Again, this webinar is about a smoke detector, so we're going to get into that coming up next here. But before we do that, I think, well, sorry, I just want to go over, this is what we currently offer. We have the transceiver or key fob, the sensors. We have a motion detector. We have 2 versions of that, one that's standard, one that has pet immunity, and then a window sensor and a slimline door sensor, and the universal 3-zone sensor. If you're familiar with the two-way wireless that we've been offering up to this point, these are the products that have been available to you. I think now would be a really good time just to ask you a couple questions about, your familiarity with the ELK two-way wireless. So, Jessie, if you could take care of that for us.
Absolutely. So we want to get to know our audience. So one question that we would like you to answer is, what is your experience with the M1? Have you installed a couple? Have you installed quite a few, or are you new to the M1 and to ELK and all that? So we would love to get to know our audience, and a lot of you have just installed just 1 or 2, and quite a few of you haven't installed an M1 before. So we are very excited that you've joined our webinar. I'm about to close this quick poll in about a couple seconds, so you can finish up your answers, and thank you so much for answering them. And my next question is, since I know some of you do not install M1, so I know that that'll be a no, but do you currently install ELK's two-way wireless? Since it is a pretty new line for us, it's been out for probably like a little over a year now, and we've been growing to it. We have a lot of exciting new products coming out this year in this wireless line, so I hope this webinar will entice some of you to try our two-way wireless, and about 78% of you have not tried our two-way wireless. So thank you so much for joining our webinar. And so now, without further ado, drum roll please, we would like to introduce to you our very new Sound All smoke detector to our two-way wireless line. So Amy, please describe to them this amazing product.
Okay, so this is what it's all about today. This is what the webinar's about, and hopefully why you're here is interest in this new smoke detector that we have. And it's a very interesting, exciting product. It has some really unique, awesome features, so let's dive right in. We call this a Sound All smoke detector, and the reason that we call it that is because it has this capability to be able to interconnect with the other smoke detectors that are enrolled in the system, so that when one smoke detector goes off, they all go off, and that's happening wirelessly, so you don't have to have a wire in between the smoke detectors to make that happen. That's something that smoke detectors have been interconnected for quite a while now, but it's been through wires. You didn't have that capability with wireless smoke detectors to have that interconnect, so that's one of the big main features about this new smoke detector is that wireless interconnection between them. It is a photoelectric smoke detector. It also features some heat sensors. So we have a rate of rise temperature sensor, and then there's also a fixed temperature sensor. So the fixed temperature sensor is going to kick in around 135 degrees Fahrenheit, and with the rate of rise, that's around a 15-degree increase over 1 minute time with temperature above 105 degrees. So with both of those, you're really getting a smoke and heat detector with this particular product. It runs off of 2 lithium batteries, so we've got a lot of good power there, and this product is UL listed, which is very important for fire systems, for smoke detectors. Of course, they need to be UL listed, and this product is. And we offer a 2-year warranty, which is standard with our two-way wireless and our M1 line. So that's just a little bit about the smoke detector, and we're going to dive into this a little bit more and talk to you a little bit about some of the features. So this is, we're looking at the top of the smoke detector. You can see there's a silence button there, and we've got, the places here where the heat sensors are. And again, there are 2 different heat sensors that I was describing earlier. You've got your sounder here, and then an alarm status LED. Now that sounder with one smoke detector it's 85 decibels at 10 feet, and it is in the standard temporal pattern that you need for fire, so it's going to be sounding in that 3-tone, 3-cadence pattern when it goes off. The alarm status LED is clearly visible when you look up at the smoke detector. There's a nice little lens there that amplifies that LED and allows you to really see that when it's lit up. During normal operation, that LED is going to blink about once every 16 seconds or so. So it's just a little heartbeat there to let you know that it's alive and doing what it needs to do. When the sensor detects smoke or heat and goes off, that LED is going to come on. So you're going to have an on solid there when there's an alarm. If there's a trouble condition, the LED will go off and you will no longer see your 16-second heartbeat. Now a trouble would be like a low battery, or if the sensor is unable to communicate with the control. With the test silence button, if you have an alarm condition, if it senses smoke or heat and you press that to silence it, it's going to silence it for several seconds, but if there's still smoke in the chamber, it's going to continue to sound. So that's something to be aware of. That's by design the way that it works, because if it's still sensing smoke, you certainly would want to be aware of that. So some of the advantages of Elk's sound off smoke detector are, I've already hit on this quite a bit, the wireless interconnection between the smoke detectors. That's a very important feature, and it's unique to our product, and there may be a few others that can do the interconnect, but what ours can do that some others cannot is also communicate with an alarm system. So it can communicate with the M1, which then can report this alarm to the central station. So not only are you getting the benefit of that wireless interconnect, but you also have something that's actually tied into your alarm system and can contact central station so that the property authorities can be dispatched to get the fire department out there and see what's really going on, take care of the situation. So that's something that's unique to our product that we're very proud to be able to offer that, and it's something we feel like is really important and necessary, that not only does this thing make noise and let you know that there's a problem, but it can also call out to central station. So let's just go into a little bit of how this sound all feature works. So if there is fire or smoke detected by the detector, it's going to start sounding, and it's also going to communicate to the M1 through the wireless transceiver. The transceiver is then going to communicate with all other enrolled smoke detectors, causing their sounders to go off. So this is how it's interconnected, and it can, from one smoke detector wirelessly talk to all the other smoke detectors that are enrolled, so that you definitely get that notification, which is very important. This is a sneak peek webinar, but we do want to go ahead and give you some information about how this works with the M1, how you get it enrolled, and things that you need to know about how it programs. So enrolling these smoke detectors requires either that you do a manual enrollment from the keypad, or that you enter the appropriate information in the programming software. And we're just going to go over both of those enrollment methods so that you're familiar with that. We'll start by going over the keypad enrollment. And I've put together with these slides, which you'll be getting in the follow-up for this webinar, a pretty detailed step-by-step process of how to go through this, and I'm just going to hit the high points for you here as we take a look at that, and you can always go back and reference this and our other support materials that we'll provide to you. But basically, to do the enrollment from a keypad, you do need to go into programming. That's going to be your ELK or your menu key, and then 9 to go into programming. That does require a valid installer code to be entered. And then once you're in programming, you're going to be accessing menu 14, which is your wireless setup menu. Once you're in the wireless setup menu, you'll need to go to option 3, which is your learn transmitter option. And you'll go into that menu and you need to select the zone that you're going to be learning that into. So it does need to be a zone that is not currently occupied by any other wireless sensors, and it needs to be a zone that is part of your wireless group. So in the example here, I've shown zone 17, which is the first zone on the wireless. Again, keeping in mind that the transceiver must be set to address 2. And that's just for any of the two-way. You have to start with your transceivers at address 2. So you wouldn't want to have a hardwired input expander at that same address. But, so in my example, I selected zone 17. We tell the system that's the zone we want to learn it into, and it will instruct you on the keypad and verbally on an M1 Gold to push transmitter button. At that point, you're going to insert the batteries, and there are 2 batteries, and we've got a picture here of the battery compartment. The battery compartment is designed such that if there are no batteries installed in that compartment, you can't actually put the back plate on the sensor. So that's just what you're seeing there with this little spring down at the bottom is a mechanism there that prevents the smoke detector from being hung on the wall or ceiling with no batteries in it. So you pop in your 2 batteries, and then you're going to get acknowledgement. You'll hear a chime at the keypad. You'll get voice acknowledgement on the M1 Gold indicating that it was enrolled, and you'll also see the ID number pop up on the keypad. Now we have a feature with the M1 that we call Rapid Enroll, and what that does is advance to the next zone. So let's say that you're learning in 5 of these smoke detectors. You're going to be able to start this enrollment process, put the batteries in the first one, get the acknowledgement, move on to the next one, put the batteries in it, and go through that process so that you don't have to continually go back to the keypad and press buttons to get to learn in your next zone. So that's very convenient when you are using the keypad for enrollment. But once you've got everything enrolled and you're done with that, you do need to press the ELK key to exit that rapid enrollment menu. All right, so now the sensor is enrolled, and there are a few other things that we need to do. Once you have the sensor enrolled, you're going to be able to see as you go through the zones using your up-down arrow keys to scroll through the ID number. And you can see in my example here I have number 201CE0 learned in. And you need to set the loop number. That's an important step that you need to go through in order to make sure that this is working correctly, and that's found in this same Learn menu, but you do need to go back after you've learned them in through the Rapid Enroll, go back through each one and set the loop number. And with these two-way smoke detectors, we do want to set the loop to 2. So that's a very important step that you want to don't skip that step. It may not work the way that it's supposed to. And after you have set the loop number, there's one other thing that you need to do to make sure that everything's functioning correctly, and this is related to the wireless supervision. Now, with normal, standard sensors like a door window sensor or a motion detector, your supervision window is, around by default 24 hours. Of course, that's adjustable within the system, but you're just going off defaults there. That's going to be around 24 hours. With a smoke detector, because it's such an important, life safety component of the system, we want that supervision to be, much shorter time period. And so to do that, we just need to set this with fire supervision. Now that's not in the Learn menu. You do need to, L can back out of that Learn menu and go to your Transmitter Options menu to get to this supervision setting. So you'll go into it's option 2 of the wireless setup. Again, selecting the zone, and then the second item for each zone is going to be the supervision, and you'll want to set that equal to 3, and that will be your fire supervision, so that it has that shorter supervision window, which is key for the fire zones to have. Now, we went through a lot there about how to do all that from the keypad. Now we'll talk about how it's done from ElkRP, which is going to seem a lot easier, and that's because, in fact, it is a lot easier. In the ElkRP software, you'll have your wireless group for your wireless zones. As you can see here, I'm working with group 2 and again working with zone 17. So you're going to set your definition to fire alarm, and then there's a wireless setup button on all of the wireless zones. So you click on that button, and that brings up a screen that allows you to set all these things that we just did, went over manually from the keypad. So there's a place to put in your ID number. The ELK sensors, including the smoke detector, their IDs need to be entered under TX ID. Now you do have the other fields there, DL and HID. You're not going to enter any information there, but once you do enter your TX ID in the TX ID field, you will see those fields fill in numbers as well. So that, again, is just something to be aware of. That doesn't mean that there's a problem or that you put your information in the wrong place. As long as you put it in TX ID, the system will recognize it correctly. We have the place here to set our loop number, and again we're setting that to 2. And then of course the last thing that we went over from the keypad is the supervision, which you'll find here actually at the top of the screen, and we want to set that to fire supervision. So you can see in the software if you key in a number and a few quick clicks and you're there, whereas the keypad, while that option is definitely there for you, it's going to take a little bit longer and be a little bit more complicated to do. Now, after you've got the smoke detector learned into the system, you're going to want to test it, obviously, and there are a couple of different ways that you can go about doing that. And of course, on initial install, you're going to want to probably do both of these methods, and then we certainly recommend that these sensors be tested periodically, and you can test those as needed using either one of these methods. But the first method that we'll talk about is just seeing that the smoke detector is in fact communicating with the control, and we can do that through the walk test mode at the keypad, which is quite easy to enter and easy to do. So at the keypad you're going to press your ELK key, and then 3 will take you to walk test. You'll right arrow into that, and it's going to show you how many zones of the number of zones that are in that area that have been tested. So once at your keypad you see this screen where it's telling you, this number of this number tested. That's when you're going to want to go to the smoke detector and press and hold the test button. And you'll see on the sensor the LED is going to light up indicating that the test is working, and it will sound for a few seconds. So that lets you know that the test button functioned, and then back at your keypad you're actually going to get an acknowledgement from the keypad, and also on the display it's going to show you that it tested that zone. It will display the zone number that it tested and give you that information, so you can go around and just test that. Now that's not going to send any kind of alarm into your central station or even put the system in alarm. It's just a walk test at that point. You can also use the test button outside of walk test mode. to set the system into an alarm and test your communications that way, but that doesn't actually test the smoke detection capabilities of the sensor, and we strongly recommend that you do that using the can smoke with the GE UTC SM200 smoke in a can is what we recommend for that, and that's going to give you that true test of its sensing capabilities. That will also put the system in a full alarm, which will communicate to your central station. So anytime you're going to actually be using the test button outside of walk test mode or using the smoke in a can, you're going to want to contact your central station and put your system in test so that they know that you're testing and that it's not an actual valid alarm, because it will appear so to them if you don't do that. And of course, they're going to then want to dispatch the fire department. And I'm sure, as many of you know, if you do that and it's not a true alarm, that can cause some fees to be incurred. So definitely call your central station and put it in test before you do that. Now, as we stated earlier, the smoke detector does have 2 batteries, and it will test those batteries, and if those batteries become low, it's going to let you know by chirping every 45 seconds and also communicating a low battery trouble to the control. So every 45 seconds when the battery's low, the sensor's going to chirp. You can press the silence button to silence that low battery chirp. That will be silenced for a 24-hour period. So that's not a, press the button one time and it's not going to make any more noise ever because of the low battery. It's 24 hours later, it's going to remind you that the batteries need to be changed. The control is going to display a trans low battery on the display, so that's letting you know that you have a transmitter with a low battery trouble, and the event log will show you which specific zone that was. So if you have multiple smoke detectors, you're not going to have to be going around trying to guess which one it is. Of course, with the chirping it would be obvious, but if you have silenced that, or say your customer silenced it and then you're trying to figure out which smoke detector it was, you can look that information up in the log and you'll find that and know which one needs attention.
Amy, before we move on, I have quite a few questions.
Okay.
And I wanted to get some of them answered before we move on. The first one is there a limit to how many smoke detectors you can have when they all sound?
Well, the limit would be based on the number of wireless zones that you have available. The two-way wireless supports up to 144 sensors, and of course, you may have other sensors involved, so there's a limit there. Because it's wireless communication, there really should be no limit, outside of the bounds of the wireless itself as to how many can sound, because they are, sounding from their own battery power, and it is a wireless communication. So as long as it's not a range issue, again, the limit's just going to be on the number of wireless zones that you have. But I will double check with our engineering department and see if there's anything that maybe I'm not aware of that would provide some other limit there, and provide that in the follow-up. But I really, based on my knowledge of the product at this point, don't see that there would be any specific limit on that outside of the limits of the wireless itself.
Thank you. And then can the test button be pushed for any detector to turn off the sound of any detector? So I mean, when there's an alarm that goes off, can you just press one silence button to silence all of them?
Okay, so if there's an alarm occurring, you can acknowledge that alarm at the keypad, and that's going to silence all the detectors that were, their sounders were turned on from the sound all feature. But again, if there's still smoke in the chamber of the one that created the alarm, then it may continue to sound. As far as the silence button actually silencing all of the detectors, unfortunately, I don't know the exact answer to that question. I want to say that it does work that way, but I would really like to just follow up on that one.
I know I've talked to Kirk. He's our project manager, and he he told us that if you, let's say you have 4 smoke detectors in your house, and one goes off, which turns off all of them. You can't turn off just one to turn them all off. You have to go to the panel to actually turn all of them off.
That was my understanding as well, and that's why I was kind of skittish about answering that question, because I don't really think it works that way. And then, looking at the documentation here, it indicates that that button is used to silence the alarm on that individual detector.
Exactly.
So I think that you're spot on there, but we will provide a definitive answer on that in the follow-up, just to clarify, because I know we're we think that it's this way based on our knowledge of it, but again, we'll get you a definitive answer on that. But based on my understanding and also what Jesse has just said, I feel like the silence is for that detector only, and if you want to silence them all, that needs to be done at the keypad.
Exactly. Other questions. Will the siren on the alarm system also sound through the M1 control?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the M1 talk saying that there's been an alarm, and I mean, there's it definitely, I know when we do our demos here in the office, we have the M1 announcing that there's been an alarm. So that's
right,
always
so from your output 1 on the M1 Gold, you're going to get a voice message indicating there's a fire alarm, also indication of which detector created the alarm condition, alternating with a temporal patterned siren sound. And then of course you're going to get your temporal out of output 2, which is typically your outside siren. There would be no voice out of output 2, but yeah, you're definitely going to get sound or activation from the control panel.
Yeah. Since the smokes are interconnected, how can you tell which smoke detector is actually detecting the smoke when they are all going off?
One way to detect that would be the log data. Beyond that, I mean, there's the LEDs on the sensors, and the one that is detecting smoke, the LED is going to be on. And again, that LED is going to stay on as long as there's smoke in the chamber. So that's how you would be able to tell. But it also, I mean, when it logs the alarm and reports the alarm, it's going to be logged and reported as the sensor that actually detected the smoke or heat. The sounders are being controlled through, that sound off feature, which is from the M1, but that doesn't actually put those sensors in an alarm state. It just activates the sounders on them, so you're going to be able to tell which one it was.
Exactly. Other questions, can you remove the front of the smoke detector to clean?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, you can. And you're going to be using a screwdriver there to pry that off, and then there's actually a like a optical chamber cover that you're going to pull off, and you can clean all of that. You do have to replace that optical chamber part when you do go to clean it, and it also has some diagnostic capability to let you know that it needs to be cleaned. So yeah, that's definitely there for you.
Can you have only the smoke sound in the event of a fire condition? I know that for us, you could even put in your rules that if a smoke detector goes off, you can also have like your PIR motion sensor go off with our light, with our two-way wireless line. You can add to that, Amy.
Yeah, so and I think I'm understanding the question here as you read it, but the sounders in the smoke detectors are going to activate based on our sound dial technology. The sounders in the M1 will activate based on the way that it's programmed, and that's not really handled through rules on those sounders, but there are cutoff timers for the different alarms. So if for some reason you didn't want the M1 sounder to activate, you can adjust the cutoff timer for the fire duration so that it wouldn't do that. I'm not sure why that would be desirable, but the system could be programmed that way. I'm not sure I advise it, but it's possible.
Other questions, when the battery in one smoke detector is low, does the M1 indicate which smoke detector battery is low?
Yes, there are going to be a couple of different ways you're going to know that. At the detector itself, again, you're getting that 16-second heartbeat blink on the LED. That's going to stop if that detector's battery is low. It's also going to be transmitted to the M1 that that particular sensor has a low battery, and you're going to see that information in your event log as to exactly which smoke detector has a low battery.
And what is the battery life of the smoke detector?
Typical life on the battery for the smoke detector is going to be, 3 to 5 years. It meets the UL requirement of a 1-year life expectancy. That's what UL requires. So it definitely meets that standard, and it's going to last, longer than that in normal use. We're looking at about 3 to 5 years typically.
And is the smoke detector UL listed for residential only, or is it also listed for commercial?
Residential only, as is
Great.
the M1. The M1 does not hold a commercial UL listing, nor does the smoke detector.
Other questions? We have quite a few questions, which is awesome. Will the system tell whether it was a heat sensor or smoke sensor that was tripped?
No, it's not going to tell you that. It's just going to tell you which sensor detected a problem.
Okay. And then can you have the M1 have both the ELK two-way wireless and Honeywell wireless at the same time?
Yes, you can if you follow some very important rules. First rule being that the two-way transceiver has to be set to address 2. If you happen to have redundant or additional two-way transceivers connected to the M1 for increased coverage area, they must follow as addresses 2, 3, it must be 2, 3, 4, and 5, and again having a maximum of 4 of those. So your Honeywell wireless can then fall in line after that. So you would need to have, like say if you have the transceiver at 2 and you only have 1 of them, then the Honeywell could be address 3. And again, within the 144 wireless zones total on the system. Now that's not 144 two-way and 144 Honeywell, that's 144 total wireless zones out of the 208 possible zones on the system. And additionally, hardwired input expanders cannot be at the same address as either one, the transceiver or the Honeywell receiver. So you have to make sure that your addressing is such that you don't have any kind of conflicts there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and hit on this because it tends to be a question that's a follow-up to the question that was just asked. If you're adding the two-way to an existing system and you happen to have a hardwired input expander at address 2, you're going to have to remove that hardwired group of zones from the system. You're going to have to change the address on that hardwired input expander, and then you're going to have to reprogram those hardwired zones. So that's just something to be aware of. With it, say that you already had, we'll just say Honeywell since that's what the question was about, you already had Honeywell wireless and you want to add the two-way. You need to take care of the addressing issue, but you don't have to move the zones. And I know that that may be confusing. If you run into that scenario and you're just not sure what you need to do to make it work right, just call tech support. We'll help you out with it.
Are the smoke detectors addressable?
They don't have an address setting within the smoke detector, but they do occupy one specific zone on the system.
Okay. And then if the two-way wireless transceiver does not receive an acknowledgement back from the smoke, what happens?
Okay, so if the smoke detector sends a signal to the transceiver and the smoke detector doesn't get an acknowledgement back from the transceiver, it's going to continue to try to contact that transceiver and get that signal through. So it's going to send a signal, wait to hear back. If it doesn't hear back, it's going to send a signal again. And while it's doing that, it's going to increase its power level. It's going to hop to a different frequency. It's going to take measures to make sure that that gets through.
Okay. And then what are the distance limits for the smoke detectors?
Distance as far as range, is that the question? I'm assuming that it is.
I'm assuming that that's what they're meaning.
The range of the smoke detector is 200 feet.
Okay. And then like the range from that to the wireless transceiver.
That's what I was referring to. So
Oh, okay.
it's
Got
200
it.
feet from the transceiver to the detector, and so that applies to the transceiver, to the sensor getting a signal to the transceiver, and then also to the transceiver getting signals out to the other sensors to activate their sounders. And so that's again where if you have a larger installation where you're going to have a problem meeting that requirement, you can install additional transceivers to increase that coverage area.
Perfect. Well, those are all the questions that we can answer right now. Let's move on with our presentation because we also have some other exciting products that we want to talk to you guys about.
That's right. So we're just to let you know what we have coming out. Also, coming in this April, we're going to be releasing a wireless panic button. It's a single press and hold button with a LED feedback indicator, and again with the two-way, when you see that LED indicate that it's been activated, you see that LED blinking after you press the button, that doesn't mean that you press the button and that the sensor sees that you press the button. That means that the signal got through to the control and the sensor knows that because it's been acknowledged. So you're still getting that two-way feedback with that. It is a sealed device, so it is water resistant, which is good if you're maybe going to be wearing that in the shower, that kind of thing. We do provide a medical grade lanyard with that also, again to make that something that a person could wear while they're in those types of conditions. And again, because it is sealed for that water resistant, it is a non-replaceable battery, and it's around a 5-year battery life. So, with the two-way, we just want to hit some points as, why your customers want this kind of product. Our two-way wireless, we have those key fobs that can provide, on-demand status information from the control. So that's very convenient. You have the advantage of having the sound off smoke detectors, which we've been talking about in great depth today. You have an increased confidence level in it working because the reliability of it, being able to have its signals acknowledged means that you have it works a lot more like hardwired than your traditional wireless, because you are getting that two-way communication of I sent a signal, yes I got it, that kind of thing just makes it more reliable. And as we've been going over as well, the extended battery life with the adjustable power levels, and also it just not having to blast out signals hoping that they get through. So that's just some of the benefits of our two-way wireless product line. When we did the poll earlier, a number of you are not familiar with or using the two-way, and so these are the reasons why you would want to consider using the two-way, because these features are things that your customers are really going to appreciate. Now, looking a little bit farther ahead of the road here, we're looking at coming out with a glass break sensor sometime in the summer and a recessed door contact sometime in the fall. So be looking for those products that we keep building on this two-way line. Our goal is to have a complete wireless solution for you for your M1 that uses this great two-way technology that we've been talking about. So that's just to give you an idea of what's ahead. And I know we've kind of already had our question and answer session, but just to see if any other questions have come in the last few minutes that we can go ahead and address for you.
I do have a few. If the M1 doesn't get an acknowledgement back from the smoke detector, does it notify you on your keypads? Right,
so if the M1 loses contact with the smoke detector, then you're going to have a trouble condition. And that's going to be a lost transmitter trouble. It can't talk to it, it can't reach it. You're going to have a lost transmitter, a lost sensor trouble, which can then be reported to your central station. Will also be written in the log so that you can see which sensor it is, that sort of thing. So yes, that's definitely going to be something that the system will make you aware of.
Awesome. If anyone else has questions regarding these products, please send them our way. We definitely have some time to answer some more questions. We will be sending, I know some of you are asking about price, and Amy could possibly just send you pricing in our follow-up email. And then others are asking about a carbon monoxide detector that is being thought about. So that's something hopefully down the road that we'll be working on. And that is pretty much it. I mean, we pretty much have a lot of, I know a lot of you are asking other two-way products, and we will be, I know those are being thought about and being added to the agenda, but we do not have any additional information on that at this point. But I do want to remind all of you that who are going to ISC West that we are going to have our smoke detector live demoing. We will also have our panic button. We will also be showing our glass break. I'm pretty sure that we have a working glass break that will be at our booth, and then we will also show a prototype of our recessed door contact. So everything that's coming out this year we will have at our booth, so definitely come by booth 7033 next Wednesday through Friday to check out all of our new two-way wireless products. I know there's, yeah, I mean, if you guys have any products that you are wanting us to think about, you can definitely email Amy, myself, put it on our questions things, and because the engineers have been asking us to send them some ideas. I mean, we are definitely open to suggestions. But I hope you guys definitely have enjoyed this webinar. I know we have, since this is such an exciting product to our product line and to ELK. Amy, do you have anything else to say?
And I was just going to say, this was a sneak peek webinar, and unfortunately we weren't really able to, show you anything live, but you really need to see this product live. So if you are going to the show, definitely come by our booth, because I mean it's definitely something that you're going to want to see work. It's just a really impressive product in the way that it functions, and I think we have a very unique product here in our ability to have that wireless interconnect and also have that communication to the central station, which is very important. So we are really proud of this product, and we want you to come check it out. So please do that. If you have any questions, maybe you'll think of after the webinar, or of course, if you had questions that we couldn't answer today, a few of those that we're wanting to make sure that we give you the correct information, we'll be following up with you. But you can always reach out to us. You can reach me at training@elkproducts.com if you want to shoot me an email. Again, other things that we were talking about, like the having different wireless together, call tech support. We're here to help you out, so definitely reach out to us. Also, please connect with us online. We always put the latest information out there, so if you want to stay up with what's the latest thing going on with ELK, the best way to do that is through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then we have a lot of great resources to help you out on our YouTube channel. So definitely use those social media online tools to stay up on what we're doing and to get the help that you need.
Thank you, everybody, for attending our webinar. I know we are finishing a little early, but if you guys have any other comments or questions or whatnot, you could always email us and we will get back to you. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing some of you next week. Woohoo, ISC West.
ISC West Vegas, baby.
Woo! Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.